Hey everyone, this is my Post-Mortem on Nutrition Saver. It's a game that I created for this class. The objective overall is to have the player identify and apply the nutritional benefits that you find between the different food groups and decide what kind of superpowers can be created with it. So there is a list of superpowers, there's the food groups, and it's their job to kind of consume whatever food they need to develop the superpower. Learning approach and goals. So identifying the food groups is number one. I went with the typical six food groups, classifying the superpowers within the food groups. So thinking of super speed, you're going to need a lot of energy for that. What kind of food group item gives you a lot of energy? Things like that. So identify the food groups, classify those superpowers with the food groups, and then develop the superpowers. So that's kind of the fun goal to this game is as you match correctly to the food group, you get to develop the superpower and essentially save your parents. Development. So starting with the planning altogether for the game plan, I had a pretty big comprehensive final game plan, but it took a lot of feedback going back and forth on just really clarifying my objectives, really diving into what the challenges will be. So there was a lot of feedback getting up to that point, but having a comprehensive game plan really set me up for success in the development piece. Getting familiar with Twine to build out the narrative. I used Storyboard for the narration, and then just kind of carried it over to Twine itself so that there were images to make it visually appealing. Some of the feedback that I got from the first rendition of the game development was the narrative had too many words to on the screen for the learner to go through. So made a lot of adjustment there and developed out more of the learning components of it. Phase three, so the second round of feedback was to continue to build out the learning components and fix any glitches. I had some mismaps within my game itself. So really just go into the nutrition. I hadn't had a time to build that out. And then the final piece was balancing the learning and entertainment features. So the narrative really builds the story and drives the learner into it. However, it took up a majority of the learner's time. So bringing in and balancing the learning components was part of the feedback for the final. So hopefully you all get to enjoy that. What went wrong? So nutrition is a difficult game to develop, but it's only because the learning objectives aren't really black and white, like maybe something along the lines of math or one of our other typical subjects that you see. So that one was kind of difficult because I had to come up with a story that sells nutrition to a kid. And in reality, I think going back, I would choose something a little bit more simple. So I'm not focusing on the learning, figuring out what the learning objectives could be and really putting more focus into the development of the game. Um, Coding with Twine, I had to really dive into this and how it's done. I'm used to coding with HTML like on a sheet, but I had difficulty finding a CSS sheet within Twine, so I had to do it all within the story blocks. So I found that difficult, and it took me a while to figure that out. And then, like I mentioned already before, balancing entertainment with educational content. It's just there was a lot to the backstory to bring people in, and really finding that good balance was an area of opportunity for me throughout the whole development process. Some things that went right. Twine was intuitive, so it was relatively simple to jump on and kind of get the hang of. So I really liked that program and the interface to it. The story was fun to create. I know I went through a lot of different versions and kind of expressed some frustration with my topic on nutrition, but in all reality, it kind of got fun to let my mind go wild with that. Again, like I mentioned, game plan, having a solid game plan really set myself up for success in development. I felt I did a lot more work in the beginning part, and then it all just came together towards the end. And then, of course, learning a lot about nutrition. When is that not a good thing? So some of my lessons learned, keeping it simple, thinking of learning objectives, not choosing a topic where you really have to push yourself from an instructional standpoint, but picking something that you can focus on the development of the game and less on the planning of the learning objectives. Say no to your inner perfectionist. I know this will come out with the napkin sketch, but just being okay if it's not perfect, and understanding we're not going to create a 5-star game in this course is a big piece. Reviewing other games in class, I got a chance to look at and run through many of the other games, and I actually got a lot of great ideas coming out of playing other people's games. So that's really something that I think would be a great lesson that I learned was really just looking and seeing like that diversity of approach between my other peers. And then getting familiar with game lingo, I had to do a lot of Google searching on what different terms mean within games. So I think that if you're not familiar with it, just like me, go ahead and look it up because it's going to seem like things make a lot more sense when you get the lingo down. All right. Well, I hope you all enjoy the final version, and it's been a pleasure playing your games. Cheers.